What is the world expecting starting from February 5th? Why is the world anticipating this day exactly with such caution? What exactly will happen when the clock strikes midnight on this date? In fact, we're not just talking about an anniversary, we're talking about the date of entering into a direct nuclear confrontation for the first time in decades. Who is responsible? We're talking specifically about the date of the end of the new Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty. But the real shock comes when we learn the secret behind this mysterious silence that America and President Trump are maintaining regarding Russia's demands to renew this treaty. Is Trump planning to leave Europe alone in the face of the Orishnik missiles? In front of all these hypersonic weapons that Russia possesses? How is China connected to this suspicious silence? And what's even more dangerous than all of this is this secret alliance that's starting to form now under the name Merzoni. What's the secret behind this alliance? Could it really be the reason for the collapse of the European Union? We'll talk about all of this today. Stay with us. Dear viewers, peace be upon you and God's mercy and blessings. Welcome to today's episode in our ongoing series of opinion discussions, God willing. Today's topic, viewers, it starts with this disaster that the world may witness beginning on February 5. On this upcoming day, February 5, one of the most important international treaties ever. The Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty, known as the New Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty, will come to an end. This treaty, just so everyone knows, was originally a bilateral agreement between the Soviet Union and America, and now it's between Russia and America. This treaty began in 1991 under the name Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty 1, but later other treaties with bigger goals followed in stages. Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty 2, Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty 2I. But what matters to us today is the latest agreement in this framework, New Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty, which was signed only in 2010. And it was signed exactly by former United States President Barack Obama and former Russian President Medvedev, who now serves as Putin's deputy in the Russian National Security Council. This treaty was exactly aimed at putting a limit on the possession of nuclear missiles, setting the cap at 1,550 strategic nuclear warheads and only 700 missiles. The dangerous thing today is that this treaty ends on February 5th, which means that after this exact day, we will witness a major nuclear arms race between Russia and America. There will be no agreement to prevent that. Russia had opposed last September and offered to extend this treaty for 1 year. But days have passed, weeks and months have gone by, up until this moment. America has not yet responded to this proposal, nor has it made any other suggestion or proposal in this regard. And this is what puts us today in front of a new development that will have a very serious impact on the whole world, especially on European villages. Here, everyone should pay attention to this policy that Trump has been following since he came to lead the American administration. Although there has been relative stability, of course, in the level of relations between America and Russia, this treaty was not addressed at all throughout the past year. It was only rarely mentioned. And this mention always came from the Russians, meaning the initiative was always from the Russian side. Russia, which was talking about the necessity of extending this agreement until a new agreement is reached. While America is indifferent, Trump is indifferent. He doesn't talk about this point. In fact, they don't even respond to this Russian demand, neither with yes nor no, nothing at all. This raises a lot of questions. What exactly is Trump planning? So here, dear viewers, of course we should always connect such topics, and this topic in particular, to all the events and changes happening in the world today. So what do we find? we find that the topic has become connected to China and Europe. So the first thing we find is that the major concern America has today is not from Russia, not from Russian nuclear weapons, but from China and Chinese nuclear weapons. America has recently changed its national security strategy. It now sees that Russia does not pose a real threat to American interests as much as China does. America believes that it is very possible to contain Russia and that Russia could very well become a friend to America. There are interests that connect them, shared interests in a number of regions. The most important of these regions, of course, is the Arctic region. Therefore, for America, the issue of limiting Russian nuclear weapons no longer poses a threat to it as much as it serves America's interests. It achieves some interests, specifically regarding this European file. Because now, just so everyone knows, we need to ask the question, what will America gain from putting a limit on Russian strategic nuclear weapons? Nothing at all. America now wants to put a limit on Chinese nuclear weapons, not Russian ones. Russian nuclear weapons threaten Europe, not America. In other words, they threaten Trump's enemies. Today, the threat is to the members of the war party in Europe. It threatens the leaders of these liberal countries in Europe. In the past, America used to defend Europe. It was the one responsible for protecting Europe, so it used to make such treaties in service of Europe. Today, everything has changed. The situation has changed. So, why would Trump make such an agreement or extend it, when in fact it could be used as a point of pressure against the Europeans? For example, give me Greenland, or else I'll let Russia have thousands of new strategic nuclear warheads. Russia has repeatedly said that this treaty shouldn't be just with America alone. They say it should also include the European nuclear countries like France and Britain, meaning if Russia is only going to keep, for example, 1,000 nuclear warheads, then Britain should also only keep the same number. But Russia, despite the European countries refusing to enter into such a treaty, Russia was signing this treaty because it knew very well that future power does not lie in strategic nuclear missiles, but in tactical nuclear missiles. Europe lacks this technology. Europe has not reached it yet. Europe is still very far behind in this field, while Russia has reached very advanced levels in this technology. Today, for example, it is capable of destroying an entire military-industrial area with a single missile, a tactical nuclear missile, ensuring that the destruction remains limited only to that military area. Moreover, Russia confirmed its technological superiority in this field when it officially announced the success of these new hypersonic missiles capable of carrying tactical nuclear warheads, such as the Orishnik missiles. Add to that the cruise missile, the Burevestnik missile, which is nuclear powered and can stay airborne for days and even weeks. So the United States became completely convinced that the Russian nuclear project cannot be stopped for good. The danger is no longer in the strategic nuclear warheads, but in technologies like these that Russia has achieved. The hypersonic missiles, which cannot be intercepted at all today by any air defense system, no matter what system it is. That's why they want to contain Russia. They want to make it part of the American system, and thus keep Russia away from any possible alliance with China. At the same time, it is a strong pressure point against the Europeans. Speaking of the Europeans, there is an important point we will talk about today. Today, we are witnessing truly suspicious changes in Europe. Maybe history is repeating itself. After we previously revealed how Germany has been devastated by France's policies and how there are now very serious disagreements between France and Germany, today it is clear that a new alliance is forming between Germany and Italy from within the European Union. This brings back memories of the German-Italian alliance during World War II. It brings it back to memory and to mind as well. Before that, during what is known as the Bismarck era in Germany, to the extent that today they call this alliance, what do they call it? The Merzoni alliance, meaning Merz and Meloni, Merzoni. I think it's modeled after Mussolini. So now Germany has started to revive historical alliances. And the real purpose here, of this alliance today with Italy, is to form a new leadership for Europe. A new leadership that's away from France, away from Macron's failed policies, away from the liberal policies that have drowned Europe today, plunged it into a historic crisis, and put it in a very vulnerable position from the start against President Trump. So Germany has now reached the conviction that it must act now before it's too late. If things continue this way under Macron's leadership, the European Union will completely collapse. It will fall apart, because today the situation is dangerous. It could fall apart at any moment. The presidential elections are scheduled for April next year, and then he will leave. But looking at this ruling coalition today, the fragile coalition that only has 163 seats out of 577 in parliament, Macron might leave before the election date. He might leave at any time this year. And this seems more likely to them because what does Trump want? He wants to get Macron before Macron and the liberal system people get him. Therefore, if Macron falls, Jordan Bardella from the right-wing National Rally Party in France will rise as an alternative, and then the European Union will collapse. That's why the German Chancellor Merz is trying today to prevent these events with this alliance, so that the European Union remains united at the moment of Macron's fall, even if it's not under Merz's leadership. When he conducted a study on all the heads of state and governments in Europe, he found that there is no one in Europe who can be relied upon as a strong internal leader, with significant external political influence and a good relationship with Trump. Better than the Italian Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni. Italy is not a nuclear power. Its military capabilities are weak compared to these major powers, and its economy is not in better shape than the French economy. But when we talk about Giorgia Meloni, at least she has internal stability. At least she is not rejected by the Italian people. Her popularity in Italy is increasing today, and she has a political future that will allow her to remain throughout the coming period, which will be a decisive period. In addition, her relationship with Trump is good. This is exactly what Merz wants, what Merz is planning. He wants to jump off this ship that Macron put him on and join Trump's policies. Then also Meloni, she is right-wing, not liberal. She does not revolve in this liberal orbit. Even Merz and his party in Germany, the Christian Democratic Union Party, is a conservative party. So the two of them might agree on everything, but despite all this, will this satisfy Trump? Not at all. Trump knows this political game very well. He has a plan to take revenge on everyone who was against him during the previous elections. Today, Trump supports the Alternative for Germany party, this right-wing party in Germany. What did this party say today? This party? He said that if he wins the upcoming elections, he will demand that Ukraine return 70 billion euros that Germany had given as military aid to Ukraine. So pay close attention, everyone will turn against Ukraine. In summary, Trump today is not looking for security in Europe. He is looking for other leverage. He only wants to achieve America's interests. Today, America is no longer standing with these European countries. It is no longer with France, nor with Britain, nor with Germany or any others. America's interests today are defined with Russia, defined with China, and defined with some minor regional powers in certain areas in Africa and the Middle East, but not with Europe. Therefore, we are not just talking here about the end of an international treaty called New Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty. Ultimately, we are talking about a pressure card, a strong pressure card that Trump will use. So starting from February 5th, no one can predict what Europe's borders will look like or what the nuclear ceiling will be. What is certain is that there will be no balance and there will be no clear red lines as there were before. It will be new leverage for Trump. And then we will see how Europe will act, how Macron will act, what Macron's fate will be, and what will happen to these European countries. Remember to subscribe and like. Peace be upon you. See you next time.